My brother Dale, W9DKB, decided to put up a tower. This is that story, and as you will see, it's a story for all seasons. The process began in February of 2018 when Dale put together an order for an aluminum, self-supporting universal tower model 1550. His goal was to have a tower which would reach to near treetop level. In mid-March, the tower arrived by commercial carrier. The driveway was covered in ice, making it impossible for the delivery driver to negotiate a maneuver to drop the items at the house.
So this is the 26 tape or 22 taper, I'll bet.
Dale checked the delivery documents to be sure each item he had ordered were on the truck.
Top. This here is the top and the 18. So that's the top and the 18. And then inside of this, there's a plate, and then the bearings inside of there.
We hauled the sections up the slippery driveway to the garage for further inspection. The base is made of 3 steel legs. If you've ever received items by a trucking company, well, let's just say they're awful when it comes to handling your stuff. Sure enough, we noticed significant damage to one of the sections. Very disappointing. The sections were simply wrapped with plastic and a little bit of cardboard on the ends. The driver took the damaged section back with him.
One more here.
Sections which were nested had some wire keeping them together. Each section was then transported to a storage area Dale had organized under his deck.
Yeah, I got it.
Stringers were attached to the deck posts to keep the tower off the ground, keeping the ice and snow off until the spring when the installation would begin.
Let's set it down on the ground, Greg.
On a sunny day in mid-April, the replacement section arrived.
Got it all bent up on you there?
Yeah, what had happened is something had jammed into the end and it bent this way in.
Oh, that's crucial.
Looking through the busted packaging,
Looks like bent a little bit where we're at.
there was evidence of a bent crossmember. Dale signed for the new section and accepted delivery. Now all 50 feet of tower was at his QTH. In order to swing the tri-band beam, a few trees needed to be removed. An aerial survey was done by Greg N9CHA. He flew his drone at tower top level to provide a panorama of the site. Dale got his chainsaw fired up and began cutting some of the smaller trees. He cut them so they would fall in an open work area. Each was de-limbed and cleaned up before another was cut down. Steve, N9CHA, was on site to lend a hand. He bucked the trees so Dale could haul and stack the logs for later use in his fire pit. The day ended with the felling of a much larger tree. And again, Steve bucked the timber for later use.
Okay, I'm getting ready to cut down a tree and just preparing my chainsaw. The first thing I need to do is check the tension on this. It's a little loose. So you tighten it by loosening these nuts here. And then you tighten the screw, which essentially lengthens the bar. And then you retighten the nuts. Second thing I do is check the bar and chain oil. And it's pretty full, so I think I'm good there. And then finally I put in some fuel. I always keep fuel out of the saw when it's not just in storage, because this cap tends to leak. This uses 40-to-1 fuel, 40 parts gas to 1 part oil. Same as my wheat trimmer. And now it's ready to go.
Another couple of trees needed to be removed, so in early July, Dale decided to cut them down as well. And now to cut down a much larger tree. Dale laid out the tower site and marked the location of the cable trench and the tower base. With the help of a mini hydraulic excavator, the digging began. As the dirt was removed, Dale constantly checked the depth. The operator was careful to keep the trench straight and level. Jack, W9JET, showed up to take in the spectacle. Just as things were progressing nicely, we noticed hydraulic fluid spurting out of a hose. Rags, paper towels, and electrical tape were wrapped around the hose in hopes the excavator would be able to finish the job. However, the oil continued to leak out of the makeshift repair.
Man, it's raining down in there.
Yeah. So this will be a pre-lubricated hole then. Now the race was on to try and finish the dig before the machine ran out of hydraulic fluid. So Dale was just saying that he thinks that extra hydraulic oil down there will make those signals slip out a little bit faster.
Right. Yeah, it's lubrication for the DX signals going to Hawaii and Alaska.
We'll probably have to recalculate the velocity factor of the coax now too.
Absolutely, yeah. All we need to do is mix it with some goofer dust and everything will be just great.
You know what it'll help is the square way of getting around the round corners of the wire.
There you go.
Dale constantly monitored the progress, aiming to get to a depth of 5 feet.
4.5,
6 inches more.
half a scoop.
Digging continued with all of us looking at the hydraulic fluid gushing out of the machine.
On sand.
That's 5 feet, right?
5 foot. So big till we hit sand.
Yeah.
The operator now began to clean up the hole and sidewalls. Jack and Dale looked on at the progress, monitoring the fluids raining down into the hole.
How close is that? You're almost right at 5.
There's 5 foot, right? There, it's a little high. It's 2 inches high.
Just get that pile there in that back corner, I think we'd be okay.
You got her.
The last bucket of dirt was finally pulled up out of the hole.
That's enough.
That's good. You like it.
So this is our first day of construction, and Dale and I just went through his plans on all the dimensions of the lumber. We went up to Menards and found this dimension lumber. So let's see, he's got 2 by 4 by 10 and 2 by 6 by 10, and he's got 4 each, and he's got a nice fence around the hole over there. So we're going to start making some sawdust here by using the chop saw, and he's got a little rest area set up over here and some fresh water, all of our tools. So we'll do a little progress as we go, but as of right now it's a nice cool 65 degrees, no humidity. Oh no, maybe not. 85 and humid as hell. Okay, so we have to take boards similar to this that are 13.5 long, screw those to the side members to give us a vertical height to put those parallels on top of, and then on top of those parallels will be these cross braces, see? So that keeps everything nice and good to go. And then Dale's going to buy some shims, and you kind of wedge them underneath there to get your plumb on your first section. So that's what we're going to go do. We're going to go to Menards in a nice air-conditioned car and buy, let's see, a 2.6 by 8 foot and a good old stud.
Some days later, Dale had the frame over the hole and positioned the way he wanted it.
Okay. So I got this in here, and it's almost flat.
Okay.
But it's just very gently leaning this way, so that water will come off.
Oh,
this
it'll
way.
shed off this way.
So just barely. But otherwise, this way, it's completely level.
Okay.
And so I put these in here before I quit last night. So the next thing we got to do is
Yep.
we have to drill and put in a couple of screws into this. And then I've got a C-clamp actually that we can put onto here temporarily while we put the screws in.
Right.
So that's one other thing we can do, but unfortunately you got to be on the ground
Yeah.
to do it.
Gotta try that,
Okay. So anyway, so these will be in. I'll get the hole dug out, and then we can focus on putting in those supports.
huh? Yep.
And I had actually mocked it up with the frame outside of the hole
Okay.
to understand as you twist the tower for an alignment for how you want it to lay down,
Yeah.
whether or not you have enough leeway or play, depending on where those supports are positioned. And it works out really great. I mean, it'll be very easy to actually put that where it needs to be.
Okay, Dale just revealed that he's not alone. He's got some buddies down there
That's a mice.
in the hole.
I've got one toad because I watched the toad jump in here yesterday as I was working.
Yeah.
I thought, buddy, unless you can jump 5 feet standing straight up, you're never going to get out of here. So I'll find him too. Unless he's been eaten by the mouse, I don't know.
So those mystery holes are evidently,
Isn't this great how I dug all of this down and this is how far I've gotten now?
it only took an hour.
It's amazing.
I know, you'll have it finished up in another 2-3 minutes.
See, now this is proof to my friends who said they dug their tower holes.
Yeah.
By God, I've done mine too. I'm not going to be outdone by a bunch of old farts. Not a young guy like me. No way. I'll show those old farts that I can dig.
Dale went ahead and got out of the hole, and he has really done a beautiful job of squaring things up and getting that bottom of that hole set so that he's at the 5-foot mark, and he's measured it several times, so that's good to go. And then he had these supports on all 4 corners. He has got those all pinned in nice, and now those are fastened so that now the H-frame won't go anywhere now. It should stay pretty much right where it's at. And now we're just going to do some measuring. So Dale's got something going on here. A piece of string maybe. Because you can see what he did. He made a nice center point there. See how that works? So that now you can tell where the center point of everything is at by just looking at where all those strings converge. So that gives you a really good indication of where you want to place the center in your concrete, and then you can rotate around that center point to get your fall. So we want to obviously make it fall in that direction, so that will not be parallel to the concrete, but it'll have its own facet. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to measure the center point.
At this point, let's review the base drawing to provide a little perspective. The plan view, looking down from the top, shows the overall dimensions of the concrete. Each of the 3 tower legs are shown centered in the middle of the base dimensions. The isometric drawing shows the tower legs even better. Notice how there is a hinged connection bolted at the top of each leg. You can see this in more detail here. Notice how there is an expected 1-inch gap between the top of the concrete and the bottom of the hinge. This dimension is critical to allow the tower to tilt over properly, but yet provide the needed strength. The overall cross-section looks like this, with the 3 legs buried in concrete and the top hinge sections protruding just above the surface.
It looks like we got the base all mounted up nice. Got that all in place and measured up. We threw some plastic wrap and a tape marker. The bottom of that tape, or the left-hand edge of that tape, is the top of the concrete. And we got the vertical risers to give us our distance from the cross braces on the tower measured and screwed to the H-frame tonight. So that's great. Dale's just re-securing his chicken wire to be sure that nothing can fall in the darn hole.
Crap, huh? We got over 3 inches of rain here yesterday.
Was there that much?
Yeah, I had a glass set out on the thing over here, and there was 3 inches of water on it.
Good morning. It's the morning of Wednesday, the 5th, I think it is, of September. And the rain finally did in my tarp. And so now I've got a mess. So anyway, look down in there and you can see it's not quite as full as I thought it was, just in the bottom, but still there's plenty of water down there. I had these cans on top of the poles to protect the tarp, and the tarp actually worked fine in a light rain, but we had heavy rain again all day yesterday. And this has actually receded some, but my trench is full of water. And the reason for this is because of the downspout right here. And it wasn't filling the trench before because my gutters were clogged. I knew that. I didn't bother cleaning them out because I'm getting new gutters. Well, my roofing crew that was here on Friday decided to clean out my gutters. So 1,000 square feet of roof had rain that came down that leader and right into the trench. And who knows, it may even have poured in through the bottom of that. I don't know. So anyway, we're going to have to try to de-water this, as they say, pump it out to let it dry before we put in some concrete.
Up, over, Although, you're getting more on each shovel than I thought.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Is it all wet down below?
Yep.
All saturated all the way down below, behind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
After Dale got the hole cleaned up again, we made a set of panels for both ends.
That's it.
Due to all of the rain, the soil on 2 sides of the hole were compromised and the sidewalls had collapsed. Dale held the panels in place with a ratchet strap while he fastened one of the panels to the form.
Yeah, we're looking at rain off and on through Thursday.
So see, he's got this rain gutter, which is great, but I think he's right. What happened, it came down here and flooded out onto the grass and followed down into the hole somehow.
It went into the hole, and then it also went into the trench. And that's why I had so much water.
So one of the PVC pipes that we have set up for cabling, actually, he's repurposed just temporarily to see if we can't get that rainwater. That's a slick idea.
Because it naturally flows around here to the north.
Yeah, you can see how it's
how it goes down.
Kind of tapered down there.
So
wow.
So we got that done. So all I need help with is just
putting the tarpaulin
putting
on.
up the tarp.
Yeah. It's a little saggy in the middle, but I guess that's okay, huh?
With rain again in the forecast, Dale erected a tarp over the hole.
So obviously it's not going to keep wind-driven rain out, but most of the rain is straight down inside the woods here.
Okay.
And so it'll shed rain out of the hole, keep most of it out of the hole.
All right.
Hopefully.
Very good.
Better than not having one.
Yeah. It's really getting to be quite a soaker around here. Everything's wet. Well, how did your gizmo work over here?
That worked great.
I think it must have, huh? I see
Well-
some leaves down there.
This was half full of water too, but it soaked in.
Oh, this is just natural drain down now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same way with the hole. I have not.
You didn't bail it?
No.
Okay. So that's just from what it was. What? How much water do you think you got here?
I think we got about 5 inches of rain.
5 inches. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I see where there's still a puddle down there, but that's okay.
So the irony of this whole venture here is that on the other side of that wall is my amateur radio station. And in there is software-defined radio technology, a digital storage oscilloscope, spectrum analyzer, and gads of technology for getting on the air. And the reality is that the success or failure of this entire venture comes down to a bucket and a rope to get the water out of the base. Our tarp worked. On Monday we received an inch of rain, and so the ground was saturated, and this is all clay. And so what happened was on Thursday when we had just these very heavy rainfalls, you could just see it. It would just pond all over in the grass everywhere on my house, on my property, and it just sheeted right across the earth and just dumped in. So it had nothing to do with the tarp. It was all just the fact there was just so much rain, and it sought the lowest spot. That's all it was about. There's nothing I could do.
So the spoils are going on the backfill side of this one that we installed the other day.
Yeah, supposedly.
Most of it is. Most of it is. And right now our concrete is ordered and it's supposed to be here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We'll be ready. We'll be ready. Okay, what's down here now?
The frog.
Oh, look at that.
He's still alive too.
Oh yeah, he is just happier than everything. Does he have all his parts?
I think so.
I think so too. Dale's out of the hole. And the board is in position. But now, look at what he's got to do. He's got to try to get that mud off of his boots. Got your best side here, Dale.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, that comes off pretty good.
That's not too bad.
So what we're going to do is raise the tower up and then put it on the top of these two cross braces. And then you see how these strings go across? Dale will look down through and he will sight in the center because of those strings that are on there. That is the plan. Okay, go ahead, Dale. Be careful now.
Right about there. Good. Now, okay, so Greg,
Yes.
what was the most challenging part of getting this to this point?
The weather.
Yeah, I would say getting that shoring down in that hole and taking care and dealing with the mud.
Since you were down in there, I think it probably was the most difficult for you, but obviously you did all the muck down in there.
Oh God, yeah.
I think watching the hose bust on the hydraulic excavator was fun.
Yes.
So we got lots of muck down there. And then I think that the other part that I thought was interesting was all the engineering and the drawings. that we just built it right to the plan and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, I think so. So we're ready for tomorrow.
Let's pour some concrete.
Let's pour some concrete. Let's put some mud in the mud.
So it's interesting when you put it on paper and you talk about it and you put it on the computer and you send emails back and forth. It seems very doable. And then you get out here and you get the hole dug, and that didn't go too bad. Get the trench dug. And then you get multiple inches of rain. Now, for up here into Wisconsin, that is unusual for sure, to get that much rain over the course of this project. I think that was really the factor that kind of stunk the whole darn thing up a little bit. It was waiting for the darn rain and the buckets of water and tarping it, and God, it was just amazing how much rain we've gotten. So we're not stepping back in time, we're stepping forward. Yep, the tower is up out of the hole. And Dale, by the time I got here this morning, it was a little bit late. He had everything all dismantled, and all we needed to do was lift the tower out of the hole, which went really well. That was not hard at all. And then the next step is to try to get this piece of board out of here, and then have Jake come over with his machine, and he'll clean that hole out for us, pop that board back in there, and then put the tower back on it and pour it, which I think is very doable. Hopefully Jake's schedule is okay to get that done here. But yeah, we received a bunch of more rain the day before yesterday once again. It's just surprising. I was looking on the news last night, and they were talking about this is perhaps the 5th or maybe the 6th wettest September in meteorological history.
Jake arrived later in the morning with his excavator to lend a hand.
It's pretty heavy because of the mud and everything. It's stuck in there pretty good.
Dale pushed on the board while Jake lifted it up out of the hole.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
The bottom of the hole needed to be cleaned out again, but this time the excavator did the job under Dale's direction. The form could now be lowered back down into the hole. Dale got it mostly aligned with it hanging on the bucket. So it was back down into the hole to fasten the form.
Up out of the way.
All right, what do you think about that, Jake?
I think it'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm ready to come out.
Well, it can't be yet.
Jake, wasn't it about lunchtime for you and me?
Oh, you guys are just funny.
Yeah, we'll help you at all times.
Funny. Well, we needed to have one more shoot of that muddy boots.
Yeah.
Right, Greg?
Oh, I know it.
Okay.
The day wouldn't be complete.
Yeah. It's just like the director on a film saying, "Oh, we didn't get that angle quite right. We got to do it again."
Let's go do that again. Reset. Back to 1.
Sand was then shoveled into the hole on the back side of the form, which Dale had just refastened. Getting the form backfilled provided the necessary strength when the concrete is poured. The concrete truck had been ordered for the next day. Would the rain hold off for just one more night? The concrete truck showed up on time just as Dale and his wife Elizabeth departed on a well-deserved vacation. If you don't mind, let's just watch and enjoy the pour as Jake and Phil take over to complete the concrete work.
Well, it's a beautiful day in October, and it was a little chilly this morning. Yeah, right. It's early afternoon, and look at that. No more forms and no more braces. Dale's got them all pulled off of there. And now the game of trying to back out these screws. He cut the screws and he cut the form length off, but even with a pry bar, that form does not come away from the concrete. So now he's gonna dig a little bit so he can get the sawzall down in there and go ahead and chop off these ears, you know. So
This side here might come out.
might come out, okay.
I don't know if I want it to though.
Well, you at least cut it off.
Yeah.
After Dale had the H-frame in shape, we turned our attention to the cable conduits. We cut the length of each 4-inch PVC pipe to plan and assembled them without glue at first just to see how they were going to fit. During the assembly, we ran the 7/8-inch Helix and a pull rope in the first conduit since these were the stiffest cables to be inserted. A weather boot got installed on both ends of the first conduit as well. The final assembly only took a few hours, and afterward Dale backfilled the trench. Our brother Glenn, KE7FZX, was in town and was able to help with the project. He and Dale disassembled the Cushcraft A3S tri-band beam, which Dale had gotten from a local ham estate sometime earlier. Each section and the associated clamps were removed and inspected for damage.
You know, it'll bend, and this is bent, you know, so we'll try to bend it back a little bit, but even if it's not perfect, it's not really that big a deal.
The goal was to clean everything, replace what needed to be replaced, and eventually reassemble the beam using new hardware.
These clamps are just fine.
While Dale and Glenn continued working on the beam, I stepped outside and assembled a weather-tight box to the tower for making all of the connections. 2 pieces of aluminum were fastened to the tower legs using stainless U-bolts. There were wooden blocks already attached at each of the 4 corners, so stainless wood screws did the job. With the beam disassembled, the guys began the task of testing the components. Each trap was tested to see if they were working and on frequency.
Solstice occurred at 4:23 yesterday afternoon.
So today is the 22nd of December. It's a Saturday. And today is the day that we're going to work on this top section and assemble all the sections of the tower.
So 3 of them coming up.
Alright, so that rotor is getting in there.
There you
Now
go.
the plate right now is not tightened to the tower 100%. So what we did was we tightened the mast section and centered it on the rotor, on the top of the rotor. Put the mast up through, mounted the thrust bearing with yet just a little wiggle in that because we don't know exactly where the through line is going to be. Yep, see, there's wiggly. And then that's where the adapter will go. So we're going to roti-toti.
So I guess the question would be, do we want to secure this to this pipe?
I think so.
No?
And right behind you are the hexes I got, right in that little red. Oh, those may not be large enough, I don't know. Now right now the only thing, okay, we haven't actually put the securing bolts, or whatever you call those, onto the mast yet, but it's pretty tight. And now Daly's gonna put a little bit of hurt on the thrust bearing. That is the thrust bearing of thrust bearings.
That's the biggest one ever.
That is, that's a monster.
It just seems out of proportion for this tower.
It's just amazing.
Well, it's as heavy as my beam.
After securing the set screws, we quickly learned the 2-inch mast could not be properly centered in the diameter of the bearing. So Dale cut some shim stock from an aluminum can.
Okay, so there's a strip of material about 5/8 inches wide.
Dale slid the shim stock between the bearing and mast, then tightened the set screws.
So where we're at here is Dale is pulling out those bottom bolts, but they are really, really stiff.
We laid the remaining sections in line with the base in preparation for bolting the assembly together. By and large, the sections went together fairly well. There are lock nuts on each bolt, which makes tightening a bit more difficult.
Alright.
Awesome. Now he's got a couple more over on the other side here. There's 2 bolts per leg, and it looks like they're 90 degrees away from each other, so Of course, the ground is nice and soft this time of year.
Oh yeah.
Dale moved on to the bottom two sections and secured those as well.
So what's the date, Dale?
23rd of December.
And right now we have a 30-foot tower. We had some complications yesterday, but Dale got it figured out with the math and the measuring and a little bit of a pipe clamp, and it fell right in place. So now we're going to go to make a 40-foot tower. We have light snow.
I look at the diameter of these pipes and it's like, God, this will be easy compared to what we worked with.
You think? Okay.
With Dale continuing to put the sections together, let's review the 6-meter loop antenna mounts. The antenna was installed to the top section after we got the rotor and thrust bearing assembled. These custom mounting clamps were made by Bruce N9BLU. Earlier in December, Bruce used his CNC mill to cut blocks of aluminum to precise dimensions. We used fiberglass tube for the mast. A U-bolt fastened the custom clamp and antenna mount to the tube. A set of custom tube to tower clamps were also manufactured. In order to assemble the fiberglass tube, a set of PVC sleeves had to be turned. A boring bar made quick work to turn the correct ID. You've used this product quite a bit, haven't you, over the years?
Yep.
Using a 2-part epoxy, Bruce fitted the fiberglass mast tubes together with the PVC sleeves and fittings.
There we go.
That actually fit in there very nice. And you're right, the adhesive almost makes kind of a lubricant for it to slide right in there.
Right.
All right. There we go.
Well, what do you
It's done.
think?
Yeah. It's 50 feet of aluminum. That's great.
It is. That's wonderful. What a good day.
Yeah,
That's a nice early
Oh,
Christmas
man.
present there to have that done. That much.
absolutely. That was a big one.
Oh yeah,
That was a milestone.
it sure is. Wonderful.
All right.
Well, I'd say that's a wonderful job.
Okay, so now, I suppose the next thing is to put that other.
Yeah, mother mast section on and get some antennas ready.
Yeah.
Get some coaxes built. That is an A3 mounted to the mast. How about that? And it goes down that way.
Christmas Day. The tower sections are assembled, the 6-meter loop antenna has been installed, and the tri-bander is secure.
So there's the lumberjack over there. He felled another tree today. He's got his little wagon and he's pulling down all the bits. Took most of the afternoon actually to get that darn tree down and saw it up, but he got her. And meanwhile I was running feed lines and got everything run except for the RG6 that goes up to the TV antenna. That one has to come yet, but anyway, I kind of tied things up a little bit just to make sure they're a little bit watertight anyway. Rain and ice and snow is coming in the forecast here. So got things pretty well taped up. Maybe they need a little more attention later, I don't know. And they both terminate right here for now. So we thought we'd put together the littlest beam here first. This is only, what does it say? It's only 32 feet long, right?
30 feet.
30 feet long, yeah. And there comes, and this is not exactly the last element. It's close to the last element. But there's the top. Okay, there's the turnbuckles. Dale's got them tensioned up a little bit, and we did this twice only because it turns out that you have to put a little bit of preload into the beam. So see how there's just a little bit of an arc in that? Well, over time, that little bit of cord there, that's going to stretch probably just a little bit. So you want it to be up, they said in the instructions, just slightly. So yeah, that worked out really, really well. Dale got the knots in there and everything, so we're good. Now we're just ready to mount the 2-meter beam. And it's been in the elements a little bit, so we're just going to use a hairdryer and clean it up a little bit. And that's going to mount down here. We've got the pre-assembly done for the UHF and VHF beams, so that should be pretty good to go. Alright, Dale's getting some tape off of the traps here while he's waiting for me. He's got the weatherproofing off of the mast clamp. So once we get this mounted, then all we got to do is end mount the TVRO antenna, and that should work out just fine. Alright, so let's go for a little walking tour here. Got your UHFer, your VHFer, you got your loops for your rotor, you got your tie-off points, got your feed lines, got your lanyards. And over here, I think we got a, yeah, there we go, is a TV antenna. Yeah. Got your squalo. Got your HF beam. Alright. Got your feed points. And now we get to go do some lifting.
So this would be a conventional sling.
Bruce, N9BLU, arrived to help get the ropes ready for the tower lift scheduled for the next day.
Yeah, make sure that that's on that side. Okay. Alright, so give me a bunch of slack here.
Go ahead and pull.
Right. So let's start up here. And let's say that we came along here. And then this came like that. Maybe go through there one more time.
Yep.
The day of the tower lift had arrived. We needed to mount a winch to a tree stump, so Dale used his chainsaw to create a flat surface.
And we have 50 foot of spool space.
Bruce had come back the next day to lend a hand.
It's going to be the friction of this thing that's going to really do the work.
Oh, I see. Once we get some tension, we'll flip that so it catches, so you don't lose it. You know.
Yep. So it ratchets.
Yeah.
Dale took up the slack in the lifting rope with the winch, as Barry, N9OB, who also came along to help out, tested the weight of the tower by lifting it slightly off the safety ladders. The next few scenes have been sped up 10 times. Barry and Bruce each controlled a safety ladder, as Dale cranked the winch. The tower continued to rise, stopping only so Dale could take a break once in a while. Bruce used a screwdriver as a pin and inserted it into the bracket as soon as the tower went vertical.
Oh, that's a big one. Oh! Woohoo! You're in the making. Oh, that worked great.
Yeah, it was wonderful. What a good lift.
Bruce secured the tower by installing the bolts into the hinge brackets and tightening them. The snow had just begun to fall, capping off a project for all seasons. The W9DKB tower project was now complete. You know, after cutting this film together, I realized I never made it in front of the camera. So I shot this little epilogue just to say hello, and also to let you know that I shot this entire piece using this small little Lumix camera. It's made by Panasonic. It's primarily a point and shoot. It does a good job on still images, and it also takes high definition video. And I thought actually the results were pretty good for this. I've been in the industry for a lot of years and use a lot of professional equipment. I thought I'd challenge myself this time by using something that's really not quite so professional, but yet I thought overall the results were pretty good. You hear me breathing quite a bit in the film, and that's because the microphone is right on top and it's really sensitive, so sorry for that. I try to minimize it as much as I can in the post-production. Talking about that, I use Premiere Pro for those of you who are making YouTube videos or family videos. It's a product by Adobe. For many years I've used Final Cut Pro and just never made the changeover, largely because I got busy and I always gravitated to what I knew well, which was Final Cut. And I thought, well, no, for this piece, I'm going to learn how to use Premiere Pro, and I did. It's a very good operating system, so I think I'll use it more professionally as well. So that was the film Just Add Water. I want to thank you for watching it, and 7-3.